back to the Life After College Athletics podcast. Today on the show, we have someone who I've called multiple times to ask advice on how to navigate life as an entrepreneur. He's a defender for the University of Alabama Huntsville soccer team. At UAH, he was a 3-year captain on the team, logged in team high minutes played for multiple seasons, and received the Gulf South Conference All Academic and Honor Roll multiple times. He graduated from UAH with a bachelor's of science in mechanical engineering and a minor in math. And now he's doing something pretty cool with the commercial real estate space. So we're excited to dive into his story. So Ethan Wilson, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here and appreciate that intro.
Yeah, of course. So I guess just to start off, give us a background about like what you guys are doing now. What have the last couple 6 months look like, and what's the current status of what you guys are doing?
Yeah, I think you hit all the big points. My buddy Eddy and I, we've been best friends since we were like 3 years old. We started playing soccer together, and we're 24 now. We're doing multifamily real estate full time, and of course, sticking with some adult league soccer and everything. But yeah, we've just pretty much quit our jobs and jumped into the entrepreneurial lifestyle full time, doing multifamily and doing some house flips on the side as well for some quicker cash.
What has been the motivation for doing the house flips and doing both multifamily investing and the house flips?
It's good money and it's fun. At the point where Eddy and I were ready to quit our jobs, I had joined that multifamily mentorship, and Eddy had joined a flipping mentorship, and we were kind of planning on getting them together. And it was just this whole elaborate thing that didn't really fall into place. And so we both kind of pivoted and focused on the multifamily as kind of the long-term wealth play. But of course, like I said, the house flipping is some quicker cash. We still got to eat, we still got to live, and buy gas and things like that. So we still do house flips. It's fun. It's good content for the social media, and it's good money.
Yeah, that's awesome. You guys recently just got in a car accident, is that right? Trying to flip some couches?
Dude, we got in a big yeah. So we had actually stopped couch flipping, but we still had Eddy's truck. He had this old F-150 that we would drive around in, and we were actually just out driving for dollars, looking for house flips in the same neighborhood where we just finished our other one. And we were coming back and getting onto the interstate. We just started hydroplaning and just whipped across traffic, and this big old UPS semi truck just T-boned us. But we were pretty fortunate to walk away with nothing major, some scratches and bruises, but it was crazy, dude. I mean, there certainly will be no more couch flipping after that. That was our big we did that for 2 years to try to get all of the money to pour into the real estate things, but that is no longer. We're currently car shopping for Eddy.
When that happened, did you have a couch in the back of the truck?
No, we didn't.
I was gonna say,
fortunately.
If you did you still end up flipping the couch?
Probably would have lost some money on that one.
Right. Well, that's really scary. One question I had for you: how did you even understand real estate, or even to get into real estate? Like, what was kind of your introduction into that opportunity?
I think it started back in college. I had read Rich Dad Poor Dad. I actually took a class in high school that was like an economics class, but it was more just like a financial freedom kind of Dave Ramsey class. And so that kind of got me into looking into the future and taking care of my personal finances. And then, I would read books and do random Google searches, and I found Rich Dad Poor Dad probably my sophomore year of college. And I read that, and like a lot of people, just started thinking a little bit differently and started looking at opportunities. And I looked at Bigger Pockets. I would go on there and read the forums and listen to podcasts and read books, and slowly just started planning out this real estate thing. And I had this brilliant plan, and it was that once college is over, I'm going to have my full-time job, and I'm going to buy like a house every single year. I'll buy a house this year. Next year, I'll buy another house or a duplex. And I was just going to continue that for the next 5 to 10 years until I had enough passive income to retire from that day job and just do real estate full time. And so I started that plan my last semester of college. I bought my first house during COVID and house hacked it with some of my old teammates over there at UAH. And so we were just living in the house. It was great. I was living for free. I wasn't making any money, but it was a good, first investment. And then it was January of last year that I heard Cody Davis's podcast on Bigger Pockets, and I was like, it was all about multifamily, and I was like, oh my God, like this is crazy. This guy was 19 when he started. Like, why can I not do this? And so I started pivoting to the multifamily stuff. I reached out to them and joined the mentorship, and it wasn't necessarily that I didn't think I could do it before. It was just I didn't know about that kind of stuff. And so I dove into that. And right at the same time that I started my full-time job, and it was like hating my full-time job and loving this multifamily stuff. And so quickly made that jump from the long-term single-family game into the multifamily. And like I said, ended up quitting my job, and now we're doing it full-time.
All three of us had the same introduction into real estate investing.
About the same time too. We're all the same age.
Jake's dad gave Jake and I the Rich Dad Poor Dad book.
Yeah.
And then we of course read the cash flow quadrant book. But that's kind of the early stage of, hey, there's an opportunity here, and a light bulb switches in your head, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna go after this opportunity.
I think a lot of people have that same kind of
Right.
beginning.
Before we dive fully into real estate and also like how athletics transfers into what you're doing now, I think it's kind of maybe an important thing to touch on is that you studied mechanical engineering, which is a degree that you can get a lot of jobs at. It sounds like just from like your academic career, as far as like getting all conference academic and honor roll and stuff. It sounds like you're a smart guy. So is that something where you studied mechanical engineering because you were interested in it, or did you feel like it was safe? And then also, what kind of career were you hoping to do before you kind of got introduced to real estate?
Yeah, dude, I don't know. Like I kind of fell into it. I look back and it was just kind of random. It was 8th grade when I had my first, I guess, interest in mechanical engineering. We had to give like a 5-minute presentation to the class about a job field, and I randomly picked mechanical engineering. I mean, not randomly. I was decent at math, and I was a numbers guy and everything. So I had picked mechanical engineering, and ever since then, it was just kind of an interest for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of went down that path. So I got to college, and I was like, okay, I'm still good at math. I like this engineering path, so I just went for it. But then got an internship with a company called Turner Construction, and it was a family friend who got me into an internship my freshman year, after my freshman year of college. And so I had 5 internships with them the next summer, and just going back to that. So like I did study mechanical engineering in college, I didn't even get a job in mechanical engineering. It was in construction management, as an estimating.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it was nice having that background, especially in Huntsville. It's like a very engineering town. So I knew it wasn't going to be hard to get a job out of college. But that being said, having 5 internships with the same company kind of was natural to start my full-time position with them. So I wasn't even using my degree when I started that full-time job.
Yeah, very interesting. So how was Huntsville versus Nashville? Because you grew up in Nashville, is that right?
Born and raised.
Yeah.
It was different. That's for sure. It's interesting. A lot of people say Huntsville's like a baby Nashville, and I love Nashville. I love Huntsville. Huntsville's a lot smaller. It's a lot farther behind in terms of, economic development and stuff like that. So there's not as many things to do there, but it is booming. It's growing. It's been voted like number 1, number 2 place to live the past couple of years. And for real estate investing, it's great. It's cheaper than Nashville. It's not far. And like I said, it's growing like crazy. So I love both places. I still go back and forth. We lived in Huntsville for this past summer, taking care of our project down there. But right now I'm in Nashville. We're living here full time, and I love both places.
Yeah. Tell us about the project. So is this the 24 unit that you're talking about?
It is. Yeah.
So I guess real quick, give the audience like a background of where the current portfolio is, and then we can dive into the 24 unit as a project.
Yeah. So we started, Eddy and I started with a house. He started with a condo here in Nashville. My house is in Huntsville, the one that I house hacked. He's house hacking a condo up here in Nashville. He has a roommate who lives with him and splits rent, makes it affordable in Nashville. And then we got into an 8-plex down in Texas, actually, with some of the guys from that mentorship, and they're kind of running that deal. That was more of, we helped raise the capital and got to get our feet wet and kind of see the process as a first go around. And so that was our first multifamily venture. And at the same time that happened, we bought our first house flip. So we flipped that and sold it in February. And we had a couple interesting swings at some bigger multifamily stuff, but eventually came to this 24 unit down in Huntsville, which we did finally close on in May. And we just flipped another house. So we're at 34 units and 2 flips.
That's awesome. That's pretty incredible at 24 years old.
I appreciate it. We're having a good time. That's for sure.
Let me ask you something. So it's taken you, so you started roughly, what is that, 4, maybe 3 years ago? Is that about the right timeline?
Yeah. In the single family space for sure.
Okay. So if you started about 3 years ago, what has kind of been your rate of urgency to get deals done, and how much of like macroeconomic environment and also housing prices and interest rates are kind of your determination of how many you can do, your access to capital? Like what are some of the actual key items that go into your decision making on how many you can do a year, or even if there is possibility to ramp that up and do more a year?
Yeah, I mean, there's really no, I guess, mental limit for us. We're trying to scale right now. We're trying to grow as fast as we can. So if there's a good deal, we're going to try to get it done. That being said, the biggest limiter right now is probably the capital. In that we did get this first one, the 24 unit funded. We had to raise $350K for that. And it was just through relationships up here in Nashville, people we had met with over time. And, some had taken us under their wings as mentors for us and kind of been working with us over the months. And we found this good deal and they invested with it. And so going forward, we are trying to scale. We're trying to grow as quickly as we can. But we do need the capital and obviously the deals. I know you mentioned the market and interest rates and stuff, and it is a tough time, definitely. But for the seller financing side, it's also somewhat to our advantage in that when we started doing this, a lot of sellers weren't open to that, and brokers would call us kind of crazy for asking for that. But now the interest rates are so high, a lot more people are having that conversation. So there have been more opportunities for us to look at deals in the creative sense, which of course we're not working on one right now. But finding the deals and finding the capital is what's limiting us at this point. It's certainly not the mental capacity. We're ready and hungry for the next one.
Yeah, this might be a personal question, but I think it's helpful for some of the audience. I mean, whether or not they're looking to invest in real estate, but just kind of access to investing opportunities in general. Are you guys bootstrapping yourselves and using your own capital and kind of doing even on your single unit properties, like a 1031 exchange? Are you guys outsourcing some of your capital to friends and family? What are some of the things that look like, and how have you guys grown through that?
Yeah, so far the single family stuff has been ourselves. We had enough capital from the side hustle stuff we had done during college and the couch flipping and stuff like that I could fund my house, and Eddy funded his condo, and now we have the capacity to fund the flips with hard money. But the multifamily stuff, we certainly can't afford a down payment and renovation costs like that. So that's been bringing in those outside capital partners to JV with us on the deals to take it down.
Awesome.
Are they strictly equity partners, or are they debt partners on the 24 unit?
Yeah, equity partners, all of them. We just did a 70-30 cash flow split. And so they get 70% of the equity. We get 30 for being the day-to-day boots on the ground guys.
Gotcha. You've had some interesting stories with that project. Tell us about some of the tenants you've had to kick out, or like maybe there's a lot of stuff that's private and you can't share, but how is like renovating some of those units and turning those look like?
Man, yeah, it was crazy to start out with. It was wild. Our property manager and contractor told us that the guy that we had in there was probably the worst that they had even ever seen, and they've been in it for years. So to have that on our first project was a lot. It was a lot of headaches, but it was a good learning experience. I mean, he's gone now. We were able to get him out in a way that was probably the best for him and easiest and quickest for us. It was just, we just cash for keys, told him we'd give him his rent back for him just to leave. But dude, he was causing problems. I mean, he was bringing homeless people into his unit. They were doing drugs in there, staying up 3, 4, 5 in the morning, keeping other tenants awake. He completely destroyed his unit, holes in the wall,
Hmm.
door knocked down, windows out, live copper wire hanging out of the wall. Um, he ripped his toilet out of the ground, flooded the unit. It was crazy. It was a lot, but like I said, we had to spend the money to get it back to where it needs to be. But it was lessons learned and good to have that early on when we had that, you know, capital and time capacity to deal with that kind of stuff.
Do you think the house flipping has helped as far as knowledge on how to do some of that stuff, or have you guys always hired out contractors and been able to find the right people to do the job?
Yeah, it definitely has. We have hired out for the two flips that we've done. We've had a contractor for both of those. But we've been there. We go and visit it every other day, 3 times a week or so, just to kind of follow along the process, make sure the contractor's staying on task, which we've been lucky. I think I've heard some horror stories about contractors screwing people over, but we've gotten good contractors in there who have done good work in a timely manner. So but that experience definitely did transfer into those renovations down there in Huntsville, and that we know what to look for, we know what to ask the contractor. We need to stay on top of him for certain things and let him do his own things other times. But yeah, to answer your question, it has been very helpful.
Gotcha. Yeah. How has the skills that you've learned in soccer, whether it's in college, probably mostly, or in high school and before, how has that transferred to what you're doing now? As far as doing the entrepreneurial journey, and what have you learned as far as that process and how the skills have transferred over?
Yeah. So I actually wrote like a high school testimony
Mm.
like a couple months ago to the guys down at the high school that we went to about this topic. And I
Did
would
you speak
say
in front of the high school or no?
no, I
Oh,
didn't.
okay.
I just wrote like a page
Okay.
paper just to kind of share with the team and everything. Um, but man, I would say, and there's a ton of things. I feel like all three of us could go for days about things that translate directly from college athletics into the professional world.
Hmm.
And I think for me, the four biggest things, first two are discipline and consistency. Is like, and I think this is talked about. I see Instagram reels and TikToks on this all the time. It's like if you can wake up every single day, sport, athletics, professional life, relationships, whatever it is. It's like if you can wake up every single day and do the things that you don't want to do, that's discipline. And I mean, like you want to do them. And then over a consistent period of time, for a year, for 5 years, for 10 years, I mean, that's the fundamentals of success. Like it's not like a crazy secret formula, but if you are disciplined consistently for a long period of time, you're going to make progress. You're going to be successful in the long run. I think everybody in their right mind can agree with that.
Definitely.
Even I mean, some people will be more successful than others, but that's like for me, that's the fundamental formula. And then beyond that, leadership was a big thing. I think you mentioned at the beginning, I was fortunate to be the captain down there at UAH for a couple of years and learned a lot of leadership skills that, and of course, right now in business, it's just me and Eddy. So, I mean, we're each other's bosses. We're our own bosses, however you want to look at it. But down the road, like we're going to have to build a team to get to the place that we want to get to. Nobody makes it to the top alone. So you got to have that good team around you, whether it's, I don't know, property managers, contractors, sales people, whatever on your own team. I don't even know what that looks like yet. We're not there. But in sports and professional life, whatever, you have to have a good team and be able to lead them to make it to the top. And then I'd say finally, this is a big one for me, is just your attitude. I mean, I think those three before are huge and will get far and you'll do great and everything. But like attitude, I've always been a big attitude guy. Like you can go through life waking up miserable and complaining about things, and still I'm sure people do that and are successful and make it, but it's not as fun. Nobody wants to be around you. Nobody wants to work with you if you have a bad attitude, if you just complain about everything. So I've always been, I don't know, personally for me, attitude has been one of the biggest focuses of my life through college and now into the professional sense as well.
Yeah, that's great. How do you keep a good attitude when God's throwing like a lot of crazy stuff at you and you just feel like life is super crazy? How do you keep a good attitude? or is
I
it
will
you
say
kind
we
of
have
just
been
got to
through some.
force it? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, both. We haven't experienced any like life altering crazy stuff yet. We haven't been doing this long enough to experience really the bottom, but we've had highs, we've had lows, and it helps being in business with your best friend, you know. I mean, we've known each other since we were 3, like I said, and we've grown up together, and we share the same values, we share the same goals. And so when things are tough, it's good to have that support. Um, and I've been lucky to have really good support from my family, from my girlfriend. But I see my business partner and best friend Eddy every single day. We do everything together. And so that has gotten me through the tough times. And it makes it fun when we're on the highs as well. It's always good to celebrate with your best friend. So
Yeah, that's awesome. What has your is your girlfriend on board as far as the real estate game, or is she interested in that, or is it kind of more of like that's your thing and she's supportive about it?
she's 100% supportive.
Okay.
It's not real estate isn't her thing by any means. She's still in college. She's studying to be a nurse. She
Okay.
has one more
Cool.
semester left. Um, but she does. I mean, she has business tendencies. She wants to do her own thing as well. And we completely support each other on what I'm doing, on what she's doing. Maybe one day that'll come together in the real estate world. Who knows? But right now it's just yeah, we're on the same page with our goals long term as well, which is certainly helpful.
What are some of the things that have kept you on this entrepreneur path versus going a more traditional route and starting a career and working through that career, even to get to a higher rank? Like, what were some of the supporting factors? You're like, okay, I don't need all of this capital on my own. I can go do this just starting from bare nothing. And is that because of your partnership, or what are some of the aspects that have helped you make that jump and stay on that jump? Because I know some people tell themselves, hey, I'm going to go do this, they start it, and then they always fall back, or they never end up fully committing. So what are some of those aspects that help you fully commit?
Because it sucked. The the lifestyle that I was living in the office. I mean, showing up every day and sitting at that desk and just like I don't want to. I'm not gonna talk bad about anything like that. Like I wasn't in the greatest environment, wasn't surrounded by the right people. Um, it just wasn't. It wasn't for me. That life. I was in it for 9 months. I hated every day of it, and I just thought about other things I could and should be doing with my potential. You know, like I didn't want to sit in an office all day for years and years and years with these thoughts about what if I had done this 9 months ago, what if I had done this 5 years ago, blah blah blah, because everybody says that, you know, like everybody wishes they had done this, wishes they had done that. And I'll kind of loop back to Eddy on this one. It came to a point after a few months of he was already in his job for a while, and he was a little bit more flexible because he was hybrid, sometimes from home, sometimes in the office. But me being in the office all day, it got to the point where we were calling each other every single day, and we were like, man, we got to get out. Like, we got to get out. Like, we got to do something. And we knew it was real estate. We just didn't know exactly what yet. So, I mean, making that jump, it was like we talked to each other. It was like, man, we're going to figure this out. We've always figured it out. There's not going to be, and, you know, worst case scenario, we both have engineering degrees and we could go back and get another corporate job in the comfortable lifestyle. I mean, it wasn't like we were going to fail and end up under a bridge, you know? So, but that's not really an option going back for us. It's like, we are going to figure this out. It may take some time. It's going to be tough. But going back is certainly not an option.
No, I think that's a good mindset to have, because then you don't give yourself a plan B. Your plan A has a plan A2, plan A3, plan A4.
Yeah.
I love it.
I think going back to kind of the qualities that transfer over, I think from my perspective and kind of what I tell like some of the high school guys that I coach lacrosse wise, is that going into the real world, decision making and the ability to manage risk. And I think those two things are pretty important, and you don't realize that you learn those in sports. But for example, like decision making, if you're going to be on the field and be a good player, like you got to be able to make decisions quickly and assess the risk. So if I'm on a fast break and a defender slides to me, I need to make a decision quick and know the different risks about which guy I'm passing to and what can happen down the road. And so I feel like college athletics also helps you learn in those ways as well, because a lot of the successful people, they have a mindset of looking down the road 5 and 10 years, but then they're diligent making decisions every single day. I can't remember what the stat was, but it was like an average adult makes about 35,000 decisions a day. And so why would I not want to be good at making decisions if I'm making decisions 35,000 times a day, right? That seems like a very important skill to have.
Yeah.
So just from my experience, like I think sports definitely helps you become a good decision maker. And with decisions, if you're able to manage risk and be able to make the correct decision, or at least directionally correct, I think that's pretty huge as well.
Yep. I 100% agree with that. And what I'll add is that may not always be the right decision. Sometimes it's going to be the wrong decision. Sometimes you'll make a mistake. But I think it's super important to have the confidence of going with that decision. It's like once you've made it, you're in. Like you can't turn around and try to take it back because the decision's been made. Like you got to go. And so a lot of people, I think, are scared to make those big decisions. And that's why a lot of people get stuck in a comfortable, like we were talking about, in what's big, like widely known as analysis paralysis, because people don't want to take that jump. People don't want to take those risks and make big decisions that, okay, maybe you'll succeed, but there's a big chance you'll fail. But if you just stay there in the middle, you're never going to know. And you'll never reach that next threshold if you never take that risk.
Yeah. I love the saying of, if I stay what I'm doing right now and I have a bigger goal, if I stay here, it's guaranteed that I will never reach that goal. But if I take the jump, I have a chance at getting the goal. And so it's an idea of like, I might as well take the chance, because at least in that scenario, I have a chance of reaching the goal. And if I don't, I'm in the same position I am now. But if I never take the chance, then I'm just going to stay here. Like there's a guarantee that I will never be able to achieve that.
I like that.
So kind of exactly what you said. What did you say? Yeah, Alex Ramosi.
I like that.
Yeah.
We had a guest on our podcast, Brandon White, and we kind of spoke about some similar topics about taking that jump, but not just taking that jump as a leap of faith, having some sort of validation behind you and some sort of support behind you. And that doesn't have to be a person, that doesn't have to be a thing, but it can be a strategy and a plan. It's kind of a course of action. Doesn't have to be refined and detailed and have all the answers, but as long as there's some sort of process where you at least have the confidence in yourself to take that plan and move forward with it. Who cares if you make mistakes? Who cares if those decisions don't work out? If you invest in a property on your first one and it doesn't cash flow, at least you know what to do next time. You know, it's all this development. And like you said, if you stay consistent, you're just kind of like building bricks. Imagine yourself as a house. The more bricks you build, the more stable the house becomes.
Completely agree.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to, that was my outlook when I bought the single family home in Louisville, Kentucky, because like the money that I had, that was all money that I'd earned from my job, and so it wasn't like funded by anybody else, but I put that money in the house knowing that so to be transparent, right? It like cash flows $290 a month. So to someone that's kind of like, okay, it's positive cash flow, that's awesome. Like it's sustaining itself after maintenance and everything. But also it's not life-changing money, you know? So you put this amount of money that you've worked for and put your own time and sweat into and put it into this property, and it's giving you $300 a month, which helps pay for some stuff down the road. But my whole goal of like buying that first property was that I'm going to put this amount of money into the property, and if I lose it all, I'm totally okay with it. That's like the risk I'm willing to take, because I know the lessons I'm going to learn from that property are going to be super valuable to what I do next. So it's kind of like what you're just talking about there.
Yeah. I think you nailed that. And I mean, like that's in the same aspect, like you're only making $300 a month. That's a win though. Like, you know, that it's what Ryan was saying. Like you're building the foundation for the next deal, and you had that experience. And even at the same time, say the deal went south and you're losing $300 a month, you're only losing $300 a month, you know, in the grand scheme of things. Like you've done your first deal, you got that experience, you're going to be able to make up for that times 10, times 100 in the long run. But it's like we were saying, making that jump, being decisive, taking that risk is what, in the grand scheme of things, is more important, especially for the first deal.
I want to ask you about, to shift gears, I want to ask you about some of your other activities. I know, like us as athletes, we want to stay active because it's just part of our nature. Feel the need to go and sweat and do some sort of team sports or some sort of activity. Are you doing anything outside of men's league soccer, or what are some of the interests and hobbies you found after college athletics? Because I know we don't have our time taken up from early morning practices and late afternoon lifts anymore.
Yeah, now it's, instead of early morning practices, it's early morning lifts. We lift every day, and then we get to work, and then some nights we'll play soccer, some nights we won't. I mean, man, it's busy right now. It's like working isn't the same work that it was, you know, in the 9 to 5. Like Eddy and I say this almost every single day. Like, this is crazy what we're doing. Like, we're just going around on our own schedule, doing what we want. If you need a Wednesday break at 2 p.m., you can do that. Like, we can take a nap if we need to. But we enjoy working. So that takes up 90% of our time. I mean, we wake up, hit the gym, and then just start working, whether that's back in the office condo, or if it's meeting with people, or if it's out looking at deals, and we work until 5, 6, 7 p.m. Sometimes later if there's a meetup to go to and network, and then, you know, just kind of chill out at home if there's no adult league game, and eat, go to sleep, and do it again.
I think that's maybe an important piece we should touch on is like entrepreneurs being young in it. How do you manage basically having no schedule and being the steward of your time, and also like still being very productive and trying to make things work, and not getting a trap of you know, being okay with taking multiple breaks throughout the week?
Yeah, that's something that it's kind of a work in progress, in that, like, there are some days. I mean, I'll give you an example. Is this past week, Eddy and I were a little upset at the end of the week. It was not very productive. We didn't have any real deals that we were looking at. We didn't have any meetings set up, given this was our first week back from Huntsville, so we didn't have a ton of time to be in the swing of things, get our momentum. But I mean, there's gonna be times when you don't have much to do, and it feels like you're kind of wasting your time, like you're not putting your best foot forward. But I mean, in that case, like, it's all right. Well, there's times when that's going to happen, and we know that. But then there's going to be times like next week, we have like 10 meetings set up, 10 between coffees and lunches and going to somebody's project. We're going to be running around all week, squeeze in time to look at deals and to make phone calls that we need to make and do things for the 24-plex. I mean, it's so, the life of an entrepreneur is so up and down. It's like a roller coaster. Everybody always says that. And I think just being okay with that, and recognizing that early on, so you are okay with that, is super important.
Yeah, that's great. And it goes back to your two aspects of like being consistent, where if you have like a general schedule, like we know we go and lift in the morning and we're active. I know that I have like this time scheduled where even if I have a big downtime, it's maybe, I mean, you know more better than me, but I would imagine some of those downtimes are kind of like a good reset period where it rejuvenates your soul and you're like ready for this next stretch of stuff. Or you can kind of regroup and get like, this is the checkpoint. And now we need to, if we go and look for a new property, we can kind of like look at it with fresh eyes and not be looking at it with tired eyes.
Yep, absolutely. I think you're right. That's super important to have those chances to kind of chill out and step back and regroup and come together and make sure you haven't been running around for 18 days straight, but you do have a chance to stop and make sure you're still on track. I think you're right on that.
Going back to Ryland's question, how important is it to have interest outside of sports in college, but then also like when you hang up? Like Ryland and I, part of the reason why we started this podcast is there's a little bit of a identity crisis you face when you leave college sports, because your whole life you've been, you know, playing soccer in Nashville, and like I finally made it to the college level. Now I'm crushing it out in Huntsville, and then now it's just over. Like now my whole identity was in soccer, and now I can't play anymore. And sports is one of those things where in your life it's the only thing that kind of runs out of time. Like college sports runs out of time eventually. So how
Yep.
have interests outside of soccer helped you? And then also like how do you manage that kind of identity crisis being 24?
Yeah. I mean, you guys know the feeling as well as I do. It's like, and it's real. People will talk about it. We had talks every single year since my freshman year of like, all right, you guys need to know what you're gonna do. You need to have this plan because once it's over, it's over. And you don't really know that feeling until it's over. Like I don't know if it was the same for you guys, but for me, it hit me like a train, man. I mean, I still remember the feeling, that final whistle on our last game, and we got knocked out in the tournament or didn't even make the tournament. And I was just like, it just hit me at once. I was like, I'm really done. Like, I'll never play competitive soccer again. And
Mhm.
so, I mean, of course, you go through the whole identity crisis of like, well, what do I do now? Like, you're trying to figure it out. And it was a little unique for me in that I think if COVID hadn't happened, because COVID happened and I got my extra semester, and that was the semester that I bought that house. And so I did kind of have this, and I already had accepted my full-time job position. So I did have a plan. I had something to look forward to, but having that plan or at least an idea is super important because I've heard horror stories of people, they get really mentally messed up after college ends. It's like this was their whole life. Soccer was everything for me. I'm sure lacrosse was everything for you guys. And then all of a sudden, after 23, 24 years of doing this one thing, it's over. And now what?
Yeah.
So I think it is super important I mean, you don't have to have a step 1 through 100 of what you're going to do next, but you got to have an idea because sports unfortunately aren't forever.
Yeah, I think it's pretty important. Rylan mentioned it, but Brandon White, who we had on, he said the same thing. We did a whole episode about that you need a plan because even in business, right? Like if you have like a couple year plan and then you're done with it and now it's like, what do I do now? Like I've already completed the plan and you don't kind of reset your goals. You get to a point where you kind of just achieve the success and then you become kind of complacent for a little bit and you're losing time. Like I'm a big believer of even when you're young, time is cheap, but it also is very, very important. Like you're never getting it back. You know
Yep.
what I mean? Like this hour that we're recording this podcast, we're not going to get it back. So like, like I'm a big believer of just being present and making the most out of it because it's running out. And so when you don't reset your goals and you have those lull periods in your life, sometimes it happens naturally, which is fine, but and that's just part of life. But if you have too many of these lull periods, it's just wasting time out of your life that you could be achieving something, going and helping someone, solving people's problems. Like the world needs you present and not having these lull moments.
Yeah, and I agree 100%. And even if you don't have that plan, I think you mentioned something about like at least getting out there and helping people or trying new things to figure out
Mhm.
what that plan is going to be. Like not just sitting there and in a lull, like you said, and having no idea what's next. But if you don't have that plan, then get out and do something. Try something different. Try, I don't know, community service. Try real estate. Try day trade. Just try things and see where your heart's going to be at.
Yeah, that's awesome. To bring a sports analogy, it's like if you hold the ball on for too long and you're not moving your feet, the defender's going to come and take it away from you. So
Yeah.
same thing in life. You got to keep moving your feet.
Unless
I
you're
love it.
Messi and then you don't have to worry about moving. You kind of just dribble the ball around people.
The 0.001%.
But no, that was awesome. We want to ask you where can people find you? If you want people to find you, what are some ways that people might be able to connect with you? Social media, LinkedIn.
Yeah, I am E7 Wilson on everything, on Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok, Venmo, if you're feeling that. But we also have Eddy and I, we have an Ethan and Eddy account on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube as well. We post daily on there. We're being consistent with the social media grind, just kind of showing progress and giving advice and tips and sometimes making videos with no value, but you get to see everything on there. So Ethan and Eddy with a Y.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I'm sure people will be looking into that and reaching out. That's great to hear.
I guess we'll end it with one hypothetical question. And This actually wasn't on the list that we emailed you, so this is kind of out of the blue, but I think you have had this conversation before. If you had to choose Cava or Chipotle?
Man, Cava for sure.
Cava.
Cava has taken my life by storm. I'll be completely honest with you right now. We used to eat Chipotle every single day. Like every single day, Eddie and I would go to Chipotle. And now we're Cava guys. We still have some Chipotle in there, but we
Cava's out. Or Chipotle's out. Cava's in.
Cava's
in,
number one. What about you guys?
I'm a Cava believer as well. The only issue is like I'm out here in Seattle right now and we don't have any Cavas, which is surprising. So like I'm kind of like I've never thought about owning a franchise, but you know, if like someone wants to partner with me, I would be maybe happy to open a Cava out here in Seattle.
That's not a bad idea. You may need to pursue that.
I know. But yeah, I like Chipotle, but I would say Cava wins over Chipotle.
I have a controversial take. I like them both, but I think Qdoba is better. Qdoba is better than both of them.
Oh, that is a hot take right there.
And like, I think part of it is acquired taste. So like in Colorado, where Jake and I grew up, there wasn't a Chipotle, or at least one that like was within reach. And of course, there's not a Cava. So like, I grew up on Qdoba, and like, I think the queso is 10 times better. It's a thick cheese queso. See, my issue with Chipotle is their tortillas to me are fake. They're fake flour tortillas. They don't taste like real tortillas. But yeah, I think Qdoba is better.
That is the hottest take of 2023. But hey, I'm no judge. That's fair enough.
I get a lot of backlash for it, but I'll take it.
In college, Rylan, I would have agreed with you. Just growing up in Colorado, because like I had the same perspective. But then in Buffalo, we only had one Qdoba, and it kind of didn't make sense to go to it. So I would just have Chipotle every day. So then my acquired taste shifted to Chipotle. And then you just have Cava once, and you realize it's just way better. So
yeah.
Anyway, that's awesome. Thanks, Ethan, for coming on. I think you have a lot of knowledge to share, and even more than we unpacked in this hour. So yeah, if you guys have questions about real estate, about starting an entrepreneurial journey, reach out to Ethan on Instagram or LinkedIn or Venmo him $5 to help pay for the real estate. And then reach out to Eddy as well. They have a pretty cool account. So thanks for coming on, Ethan.
Yeah, guys, appreciate you having me. This was awesome.